Hey friends, Mindy here. I have a process video for you today. I'm going to be working through creating my little tag bob for this kit from Bythewell4God. This is to coordinate with for the master's use, and I'm just opening up this kit. So everything that you need to create this little tag bob is in this kit. So it comes with a ring. There's a little jump ring for this super cute acrylic like vintage medicine bag. There's a couple of the chipboard ring reinforcers. There are the chipboard covers. These are good heavyweight chipboard. And there are 14 tags, as well as reinforcers for those, some fabrics and some fibers, and then of course some of the coordinating papers depending on how you choose to decorate all of your pages. For me, for today, mostly I'm just going to be working on the covers. So I have selected a couple pieces of paper that I'm going to cover my tag bob in, and I'm just using the double-sided adhesive from scrapbook.com. I have this in multiple widths. It just makes it easier when you're covering books and things. So I'm going to trim this down. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do about this hole, and I decided to just kind of use an X-Acto knife here and kind of punch through as I'm going, just so that I make sure I can get the hole in the right place and keep everything lined up. So I just used my little knife, craft knife in there, and trimmed that out. And then I'm going to cover both of these pieces with this scrapbook.com double-sided adhesive. You could certainly use liquid glue if you wanted to. I'm going to be covering mine in paper this time, but you could certainly cover these in fabric, or you could paint them, or there's, a million ways that you could do that. But for today, for me, I am covering this in paper. So I am pulling back some of the release paper, but not all of it. And originally I was like going to put it right down in the middle of this paper, but I decided I felt like that was going to be too bulky. So what I'm going to do is kind of shift it over to the left just a little bit, and then I'm going to trim this down. I'm going to pull the rest of the release paper down, and then just to kind of give me an equal area all the way around. The Bythewell4God paper is super thick paper. It's really good quality, and so I want to kind of trim it down as much as I can so I don't have a bunch of bulk. So one trick when you are covering a cover like this, especially with a thicker chipboard like this, it helps if you kind of go around and sort of score the edge. This will help the paper to prevent it from cracking as you're folding it around. And then I'm going to go through just like I would do any other kind of cover and cut out some little triangles at the corners. That's just going to help it so that there's not so much bulk when you're trying to fold these over. You can see if I tried to do this tag shape, and I folded those corners in and then tried to fold this over the top, there would just be a lot of excess paper in there. So what I'm going to do is everywhere that there is a corner here on this little tag part, I'm going to cut out a little triangle. And that is just going to make this wrap a little bit easier. It's going to be kind of awkward shaped pieces of paper here in the corner, but this is just going to make it so that it wraps and looks kind of like mitered corners all the way around. So again, everywhere where there is a point, I am cutting out this little triangle, if that makes sense. So you can kind of see you get those kind of weird shapes. And then this top section, I'm cutting it just a little bit shorter because I don't want it to cover that hole again. So just kind of working the paper a little bit just to make sure that it doesn't tear or anything as I'm wrapping it. And then I'm going to use some of this skinnier double-sided adhesive. Again, this is the scrapbook.com version, but you could use score tape or whatever. And I'm going around the edge of the paper and also the edge of the chipboard, and that is going to make sure that everything gets stuck down nice and tight, and I don't have to worry about anything popping back up. So I'm just going to go around and make sure this is burnished down really well, and then I'm going to start pulling up the release papers. Now, whenever you're working on wrapping a cover, it's really helpful if you kind of work in opposite opposite sides. So I'm going to start actually with kind of the top section. So I'm going to do these side sections of the tag part, pulling off all of those release papers, and then I'm going to pull down the side piece a little bit as well. And then I'm going to do that very top section up there. I had already removed one of those release papers, and then I'm going to kind of roll this around. That's just going to make sure that I get a good tight fit around this chipboard because it's pretty thick chipboard. So then I'm going to move down to the bottom. So I'm going to do the top and the bottom, and then I'll do left and then right. So you can see I'm pulling off both of those release papers. And then again, I'm going to try to kind of just roll this around using, my desk to kind of push that around. And that just gives it it just helps you kind of wrap it really nice and tight and snug up against there. Especially because with score tape, you don't really have any wiggle room. It's really sticky adhesive. And so once it's down, it's down. So then I'm just going to make sure I'm burnishing this down really well, making sure everything is stuck down nice and neat. Again, just kind of rolling it around. I'm going to do this same exact thing then with the other cover. I am going to use my hole punch through there. It was kind of a tight squeeze because this chipboard is pretty thick, but I managed to get it in there and then punch out that hole, and then I'll add the reinforcer later. And then so I went ahead and covered the other piece, and now I want to add the inner portion to cover up on the inside. And I'm using this fun skeletal patterned paper, and I'm just tracing the original size of the tag. And then when I trim this down, I have the two sheets together. I'm just going to do them at the same time. And I'm going to kind of come to the left of that line that I drew, maybe 1/4 of an inch, maybe not even that far. And again, with even the same down at the bottom, you can see the line that I drew, and then I'm just going to shift the paper just a little bit and then cut it. So I'm cutting on the inside of that, which is going to make it just a little bit shorter. That way I'm keeping the shape of the tag, and these pieces should fit in there just perfectly. So in order to get the right shape of the tag, I am actually holding this up to the top, and then I'm just going to trim that same angle. That way, when I glue it down, it looks, it's equidistant all the way around the edge. Certainly, you don't have to do it this way. This is just how my brain works. So you can kind of see how that's going to look. I'm going to trim both of these down. And kind of in this instance, I'm ignoring the pencil marks that I had created. I'm just holding it up to the edge and kind of shifting it over so that it matches, and then trimming those down. And then I'm going to cover these pieces of paper with score tape as well. I'm just going to erase those little marks that were still on there. And then I will use that same, well, it's not score tape, double-sided adhesive. This is the scrapbook.com version. And again, I'm just going to cover both of these pieces in that, and then I will pull the release papers. And again, I'm going to kind of pull these and fold them to off to the side, so they kind of make little wings. And that's just going to help me to be able to hold this and get it in place without it sticking down before I'm kind of ready, so that I can position it where I want, and then I can just pull the release papers out from underneath there and then burnish it down really well, and it will stay stuck. And then from the opposite side, now where I can see where that hole was, I'm going to go back in with my hole punch and punch out that hole. And then I'm going to pull out my reinforcers here, and I'm going to glue those down. I thought about covering these in paper as well, and then just kind of sanding off the edge, because I thought that would look neat too. But in the end, I really liked how the brown looked on there, so I just decided to go ahead and glue that down. I am using our glitter glue to glue that down. Any kind of really strong adhesive would work for that. And so I'm just going to set those off to the side to dry, and now I'm going to work on assembling everything. So I am pulling this jump ring, and I couldn't find my other pair of pliers, so I'm just going to use my fingers, but it should be okay. So anytime you have a jump ring, you don't want to pull it open. You kind of want to twist it open, if that makes sense. So you're going to kind of twist one up and one back. Otherwise it won't close. When you try to go back together, you'll kind of have a gap in the jump ring. So, and then I'm adding that little acrylic bag on there, and then my cover, and then I'm going to add all 14 of the tags. I will be using this to work through this devotional this month, and I'm also going to be creating a journal as well. I have a feeling I'm going to be taking a lot of notes. So I wanted to decorate the cover just a little bit here. So I am using just some adhesive to kind of make some faux ruffles. My little sewing machine is being a little bit temperamental right now. So what I'm just going to kind of pretend, and I'm going to make some fake ruffles. I am just going along and kind of folding this. I put some adhesive down, just kind of folding it and sticking it in there. And then I'm going to come back through with some glue and kind of go underneath the fold with this adhesive. and hold it down, and that will kind of make it look like it's ruffled. I mean, it was kind of going to get a little bit covered up, so it's not really going to matter, but it's just kind of a sneaky way of doing it without being able to use my sewing machine. So it's finally time, I think, to invest in an actual sewing machine instead of my little desktop one. But I have some cheesecloth here that I'm going to put across the top kind of portion of that little ruffle, and then I cut out this ephemera piece. I trimmed down the white part off of there, and then I just distressed the edge a little bit with archival ink and ground espresso. And then I have this flower image die cut as well that I wanted to put it kind of in the background, kind of back behind the cheesecloth layer, just to give it a little bit more dimension. It really matches with the background, but I just liked that big pop of that big floral back there. So I'm adding just a little bit of glue to kind of keep my cheesecloth in place for right now, and then I am going to put my little die cut piece here on some foam tape. And I used this particular set. I love these apothecary jars, but this one has one of my favorite verses on it, which is Search Me, O God. And so I wanted to just have that on the cover of this particular tag bob, because I am going to be using this for some reflection. So you can kind of see how I have everything here. Like I said, I will be creating a journal as well, and I have all of these fibers and things that I will be decorating as I go, but for right now I'm just going to leave it as it is and work on that through the month. So if you like this video, I would appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and until next time, bye.